All right, so today we're going to do our monthly webinar on budgets. We're going to go over budget configuration. There's something in there in Acumatica that's called a budget tree. We're going to go over some preparation and also financial reporting using some budgets. So this shouldn't take us too long at all. I'm going to move right into Acumatica. And the first thing we need to know about budgets reside in finance. So inside budgets, inside finance, we have a couple things that we have to make sure we're going to set up before we do any budgeting. One is going to be ledgers. Everybody is using an actual ledger, and that's where all of your transactions are stored. But you can also have a budget ledger. So this is where your budget numbers are stored. It mirrors the same chart of accounts as your actual budget, but it holds your budget numbers separately. You can do some reporting on budgets also. Some people like to have like a preliminary budget ledger that they're able to go in and update and maybe use some what ifs. So you could have a couple different ledgers there, but the one that you definitely have to have set up is a budget ledger. Next thing you want to do is you have two options. If I go under budgets, I'm going to bring up my budget for, say, 2020. Here, if you're using different branches, you budget by branch, and obviously you have that budget ledger that you want to store your information in, and you pick the year. So what you're seeing right now is a tree view of the budget, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that and show you how to configure that. But there's also a view where it's just all of your account numbers that you want in that budget. So it shows all the accounts listed that you have on your budget. It has the amount that's distributed, and then it shows you each period that you have inside your fiscal year. This is just simple view, and this is a tree view. What's nice about the tree view is you can group your accounts according to how you want to see them. So you can see that this might be a little bit easier for you to look at. I've got 3 sets of accounts. I've got my revenue accounts, I've got operating, and I've got purchasing expenses. So if I was to go into my revenue accounts, this node of that tree has included all of my revenue accounts along with any sub accounts that I want. And there it breaks out the dollar amounts for each period. So it's just a nice view. On the overall view, you see you've got 43 million. When you dive into here, you can see how you've budgeted those dollars out. So if I hopped onto my operating expenses, you would see anything that you decide to group as an operating expense, and the same thing as your purchases. So my purchases are more or less, in my system, a cost of goods sold, where my operating expenses can be broken out by any other expense that I want. Inside these nodes, you can also create subnodes. So where you go ahead and you create these, the tree version is once you go back to finance, you can go over to budget configuration. So this is where you can come in and you can create your nodes. So I have my budget tree, and here you can see each line goes matches the nodes over here, and it's going to be the same thing. When I click on my revenue, you're going to see the accounts that are populated. If I go into my purchasing, you can see purchasing nodes that are broken out, and you can also see your operating. Now, there's one set of accounts that I don't have on my tree right now that I would like to add. So this is going to show you how you can go ahead and you can add those nodes, because when you go into this window, the budget configuration window, it's just going to have your company, and at the high level of your company, remember we want to go underneath the company, so you want to be on your company. We're going to hit plus. I'm going to mark off that it's going to be another node, and here I'm going to come in and I have some other income and expenses. and usually you're not going to be budgeting for these. These are usually little things like gain on assets and stuff like that. So once I do that, I can come over and I can create my account mask. So if we take a look at my chart of accounts, I'm going to use the filter for my assets or my account type, and I'm just going to clear and bring in I want to do that. I'm just going to go to the end of my chart of accounts because that's where most of those reside. Okay, they were all expenses anyway. So what I want to do is I want to grab and I want to add other expense, bad debts, that group of accounts right here to my node. Okay, I'm not going to go with gain and loss on fixed assets, but let's at least do other expense, bad debts, and like that. So you can see I start with 81,000 for these. And because all the accounts I want to grab in this range start with 8, I'm able to mask the rest of the number. So I'm going to go back to my account. And in here, I'm going to put my 8, and I'll put my wild card with my question marks. And then over here, how do you want to bring in your sub account? So I'm going to say I want all my sub accounts. And at that point, I can come in and save it. Now, if I go purchasing, I've got my accounts, but if I go into my other income, I don't. So now what I can do is I can come in and I can preload the accounts that I would like to see based off of that masking that we did. Just hit my preload, and I'm going to go 81,000. Actually, look it up just to make sure. And I'm going to take that down to unrealized gain. And my sub account is going to be all masked. And I hit OK. And I just get that. It comes in and it brings in those accounts with every valid sub-account possibility that you have. Now, mostly you're going to say to me, well, you know, most of these types of accounts are all more or less admin. So if I go back, let's get rid of that. And I come back up to my node. If I wanted just to bring in a specific sub-account, I would also be able to do that. So instead of my masking here, maybe I just want to put in all the zeros. And then I hit OK. It's just going to load. I wasn't in the right place. It would just load up the zeros. So by using that preload, you're able to group your accounts together. So let's say under operating expenses, we have everything listed out. Maybe you have yours broken down a little bit better, you know, maybe by groupings of some sort. You could come in depending on how your account numbers are, and you would be able to make groups of those. I think I can demonstrate that better off of my purchasing. So for instance, I have a COGS, direct labor cost. What I can do is in here, I can come in and let's say I wanted to build a new node, and I want that to be my COGS direct labor cost. And so I'm going to take the same account number, 1,000. Let me delete this so I don't run into any issues. I'm just going to go to that row, highlight it, and delete. And then down here for my sub account, depending how your sub account is set up, you can come in here and you can mask it somehow. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to mask my first 3 digits, and then I'm going to mask, I want that to come in for my last segment. So my first segment is by product type, okay? And my second is by department. So obviously if I'm recording payroll costs, I want to associate that with the product. So from there, I can go ahead and I can hit save. And over on my tree, you can see where purchasing expenses now has another node, labor cost. So in here, I can come in, click on that over here, and I can preload my accounts. So that's going to drop in because it grabbed the actual account number, my 51,000, and down here it's grabbing the same masking. So again, what I'm going to say is any product I want to make sure I have a direct labor sub-account for it. From here, I can just hit OK. And here you can see I've got my what would be considered admin in my account in my system. And then down here, I've got it broken out by my widgets, my electrical, anything else, consumers, anything. And then once I save that, now I've got that broken out. So when you look at your expenses over here, you could really come in and you could break those out a little bit further. Okay, so this is a tree. It's not a required. It's not a requirement when you're doing a budget, but you can see how it does group your like expenses and your like incomes together. So it's just a little bit easier for you to read. So once I come back here, let's go back to our budgets. And let's look at, I want to go ahead and I want to create a new budget for 2021. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my year. And again, these are based off of my fiscal year. So you do need to have your next fiscal year set up for you so you can do your budgeting. So I grab 2021. I'm going to hit select. I want to see everything right now because it's just a little bit easier to see how everything works. So I unchecked my tree view. So in here, we have all the accounts that we want to try to hit budget numbers for. What's nice about this is you can do one of two things. One is you can come in and you can upload. So if you have something out in Excel, you can come in and you can do an upload. And I'm going to grab my 2021 budget that I prepped beforehand, and I'm going to hit upload. And it's just like any other upload from your journal entry or anything. It does, as long as you have the proper headings, it's going to map for you. Come in and let that build. And now I have my budget inside Acumatica. At this point, I can save it. I can go and I can release it, and I would be able to make those, use this for some reporting. The other option we have, I'm just going to go ahead and discard those changes for now, is again, grab your 2021 budget. And now what I want to do is maybe preload some articles. So if I check preload, you have this little budget wizard that comes up. And what this allows you to do is use any prior actual transactions, any year for your actual transactions, and build a budget off of that. So I can go back and say, hey, I want whatever happened in I'm doing 2021, probably 2019 because I don't have all my numbers. I want to start by increasing everything by 4% or something similar to that. Or if you want, you can take your budget from last year or a previous year and you can bump it up by percentages. You can decrease them, or you can keep it the same. So let's say we want to go in and I want to increase my budget ledger, or let's go off what actuals. And like I said, I'm not sure. I'm going to go back to 2019 right now. I'm going to hit select. So here's my multiplier. If I was just to hit next here, it would bring in my actuals at 100%. So whatever my actual was for that account for those periods, it would come in exactly like it is. If I wanted to up everything, or default at least, I can come in and say, well, you know what? I want to increase by 5%. So my multiplier would be 105. Go ahead and hit next. And what's nice about this part is it allows you to come in and grab the accounts that you want to increase. So if I want to do everything across the board by that 5%, I could just go from beginning to end, pick up everything, and all my dollars would be up by 5%. In my mind, I want to increase my sales, but I want to keep my expenses the same. You could come in here and just pick up your revenue accounts. So let's go and find some revenue accounts. There we go, sales. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do everything just so you guys can get a good understanding. And I'm going to go right down to that guy. Account mask, it doesn't matter. Sub-account, you can go ahead and hit next. This means it's going to increase whatever's out there and whatever combinations are possible. Next. And I want to, I'm just going to go load existing articles only, and I'm going to finish. So now it's going through and it's actually doing those calculations for me. So I at least have a beginning area to start with my budget. That's the second way you can start playing with budgets. Now you can also come in here and let's say you don't like this 2.2 million. I'm going to say, you know what, I'm just going to take this directly up to 2.5. And if I highlight this row, or at least stay on it, I can come in and say, let's distribute that. How do I want to distribute it? If I go evenly, what's nice is it'll take that 2.5 and it'll split it across all my periods. But if you have something, maybe you're more seasonal, you know, let's just think of some stores at Christmas time or Valentine's Day where your sales spike a little bit, especially if you're candy. You can come in and it can do it proportionately according to the previous year. So if I come in and I do evenly, and I don't want to go to all my nodes, I'm just going to go with this. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And it goes and it switches that to 2.5 and it distributes that out evenly that way. If I wanted to come in and say, let's distribute that proportionately based off of the previous year, now it's going to come in and it looks like my company is pretty steady. But if for some reason I spike at certain months, it would definitely pick up that fluctuation for you. So once I have my budget in, again, just because I've loaded it like this, I might want to see a summary real quick. I can see my summary using my tree view. I'm going to go ahead and save this at this point. And our last step is to release your budget. Once you release your budget, it will be out there for you to do the reporting on. So you can see that I've got my current year that I'm working on my budget, 2021. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to release all. Okay, so 50 accounts, I'm going to close that up. And now when we go and we go back to our budget, it's going to be there for us. If I wanted to make a change to this, let's say I wanted to change, again, one of my revenue accounts. I realized that maybe something, we're getting rid of a certain line or something's going to change for, let's do the electrical. I know that we're losing this after period 7. I can come in, I can zero those numbers out. I'm going to have to update that. And I'll just make that equal to what has been distributed. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, what you have to do to actually update your budget is you're going to have to go back and do another release. And you can see that only that line item has changed. So at that point, I can come along, mark it, and hit release all. There's another nice feature with the budgets. I'm going to go back to 2019. And I see my information here. Over here, you can see compare to ledger, compare to year. So what this means is I want to compare my actuals to the year that I'm working on, or I want to look back at. So I got my 2019 budget. I'm going to bring in my actuals for 2019, hit select, and now you can see your budgeted numbers and how you compared to those numbers. Again, just a visual. You can export this out to Excel if you wanted to. And again, that even goes down into the node level, so you can see your different accounts and how you're going, how you're doing with those. So one reason why we do budgeting is we like to present that. We like to say, hey, we're in budget or we're blowing budget away for sales and we're way below budget on our expenses. So usually you do that on your profit and loss or your P&L statement. And I've got a couple set up here. It's really easy to bring those in. So I've got my year-to-date numbers. I'm just going to go in and edit this report. And where you do that, if you remember, as you're building reports, your row format or your row set, that is the part of the report that actually does the mapping back to your GL. So that's what you're saying, hey, here's the account number I want to use. Bring that into this line and make it that line item. Your column set is where you're coming in and saying, do I want year-to-date numbers? Do I want current period numbers? Do I want individual months? And you also have the option on your columns to pick what ledger you want to report on. So I'm going to go under my column setting or my column set. And I've got a very simple column set here. I've got year-to-date. I've got my year-to-date budget column. And I also have a percentage. Remember, this part here is just the header information. It really isn't saying much. It just gives you the headers and identifies what the columns are. But down below in your data source, if I click on my actual, you can see where I've attached my actual budget. And what's my amount type? I want my ending balance. So usually what we work with here on your data source for your amounts are your ending balance, which will be giving you their year-to-date dollar amount for that period you're running the report, or your turnover. And your turnover is the change for that current period that you're working in. We're doing a year-to-date, so it's an ending balance. Again, I'm using my actual ledger. Now what I have to do is just hop onto my budget, my next column, and now I bring in my budget ledger, which will be storing with my budget numbers. And again, I bring in my ending balance. So when I go to, and then I've got the little calculation over here that's doing a little division to get my percentage. I'm going to close this. And from here, I can cheat. I can go ahead and I can make my preview, which brings me back here. Now, unlike some software, you do not have to go in and change the budget that you're using each year because it's saved in that budget ledger. It's relating to the period still. So let's stick with 2019. I'm going to go back to December and I'm going to run my report. So you can see that my year-to-date numbers, I thought I was going to do 66 million and my budget number is 36. I don't really think I did too good of a job there. And as we float down, I was pretty good with my other numbers, but that will give you your comparison. Just like if you were to drill into this year-to-date number, it will take you back to the actuals. Show you that. So it's showing you your actuals for that period. Didn't mean to do that. Did not mean to do that. Let me bring that back up. If I drill into my budget numbers, it's going to show you my budgeted numbers for that period. So it's really nice. And I believe it's off of your trial balance. You can come in and no, you can't pull it up. I thought you could pull it up there. So those are a couple different ways that you can go through and make your budget a little bit easier for you to look at and arrange it or organize it by using the tree view. A couple different ways you can at least start with creating a budget, have something out there, build from your actuals for a prior period, build from your previous budgets, and also how you can come in and you can make some changes to those budgets. You can also upload the changes. Just remember, you're going to have to go ahead and make some release and release those. So that's budgets. Are there any quick questions out? Notice I said quick. Any questions out there?
I like the seasonality portion. We definitely have that.
That's nice. That's really nice, and it's based off of you know, your past. So it'll definitely, you can see the fluctuation there. with your sales and along with your expenses. So, any other questions?
When
Go
I
ahead,
may have
Amy.
missed it, but when you could apply the percent, was it only once and only one percentage, or could you do different percents to groups of different accounts?
That is a good question. Let's see, we were in 21.
Cut, but minimum wage might go up.
Yeah, I believe it's just as an overall thing. What you might be able to do is set your budget for, I don't have a different year set up. Let me, you know what, let me grab a different branch. Let's see. Do I have a budget set up for retail? Not there. Do I have a budget set up for 2016 maybe? I don't know what I have out there. Look, let's just, the services have a budget. It's hard when you work in one branch the whole time.
Right.
All right, so let's go back to retail. You might be able to do something with preload articles. Let's go off our fiscal year. And I'm not sure what data I have in here. So I'm going to go back a few years. And let's just see what brings it, if I bring anything in for my actuals at 100%, meaning it'll just bring in my actuals. Hopefully it gives us some numbers. Okay, it does. So it gives us some numbers. So I went back to 2019. Let's erase that. I'm thinking what we might be able to do is, let's get rid of that tree view. Let's see if we can trick it a little bit. Load pre-articles, 2018. I want to go 105 here. And I want to do my sales again. Let's go to, so I want to increase my sales by that. So I've got that coming in. So that would be increasing my sales. Now let's see if I can come in and knock that down to 90%. And my COGS, I think, start at 5,000, 50,000. Let's just go up to 41. So here I'm saying let's knock it down. So you would be able to do something like that.
Okay.
Let's compare that to, what did we say, 2018? So you can see where we bumped our revenue up here. And when we get down to my COGS line, you can see where we decreased it here. So you would be able to do that in chunks.
Okay.
I don't know if it's easier to do it in here or, just export this out to Excel and run with it in Excel and then just upload it and then play around with it a little bit here.
Yeah, I think now that you can apply the seasonality to the total without having to upload, to spread it in Excel too. It gets kind of cumbersome trying to spread it in Excel.
Right.
I like this.
And what's nice is I know for you guys, you've got certain revenue that might be more seasonal than other revenues. You can come in and you can push that based off of that one line too. So if you have, I know you guys do like lawn services and like that. Well, that's going to spike more, you know, May through October. It's slowly going to rise and then slow down a little bit. But you could definitely base that off of last year's actuals just to see how that would fluctuate for you.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Well, you guys know if you have any questions, everybody has my email address, so please reach out. I thought this would be a good topic now with it being May. People are going to start getting into, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but budgets for 2021. So if you have any questions while you're doing that, you know, let me know, and I'd be happy to reach out and help you out.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everybody, stay healthy, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
And we'll get copies of this?
Yeah, yep. Amy Rizzo will be sending it out, or at least sending you a link to it. You got it.